Hello book buddies, and welcome back to my channel. I am Gwen, owner of Gold Dust Editing and Book Reviews, where you guessed it, we do book editing, book reviews, book promotions, and now we offer free feedback to aspiring authors. Or you can already be a published author, but the book must be unpublished for the free feedback. But to find out more about our services and how to submit a request, you can use the link in the description down below. And while you're there, don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Now today we're heading to New York City, the setting for Resisting the Billionaire, the introduction to the Bishop Brothers series by author Allie Winters. Here's your blurb. Okay, Gabriel and Mackenzie. Let's talk a little bit about these two. We'll start with Gabe. So Gabe is the middle child of three. Well, in the middle. It's three boys. They have no sisters, and their father is this tech mogul, and he's a billionaire, which you would think makes them billionaires as well. But they are only as so much as their father says. So you have Gabe. He's the middle, as I said, and he is also the only one who doesn't work for the family business. Not because he's lazy and just too spoiled, which I was thinking that at first, but you find out quickly that's not the case. So he had this little indiscretion when he was in high school, and with the wealthy, sometimes their image is everything. It's all about your reputation. So basically this party he was attending got raided, or something happened and everybody got arrested. And even though he was let out that same night, his father never let him live it down, because of course it made the tabloids. So his father is all embarrassed, and you embarrassed our family and our name. So Gabe goes on off to college or whatever, and when he graduates, he says to his dad, I want to work for the company too, and he wanted to take his spot, but his father is still holding a grudge from his high school thing, so he didn't let him. He didn't allow that to happen. So, but he didn't just cut him off right then. He told him, once again, image is everything. So he puts him up on the 49th floor of his building. He owns condo building, and he puts Gabe up in that building, gives him a town car with a driver, and then credit cards with no limit. So he's like, you need to be at the best restaurants where, high-end clothing, whatever, the best of the best, because, family image and all that. So that's the life Gabe has been living. And he does other things, as you find out. Like I said, initially you may get the impression that he's just some spoiled, rotten kid, but he's not. Okay, I'm going to tell you more about Gabe in a minute, but let's bring Mackenzie into the fold. So Mackenzie Sweet, owner of Sweet Events. So it's not just a wedding planning service. She does all kind of events, birthday parties, corporate affairs, whatever. So she hailed from Ohio, and she gets to New York, and her parents had lent her money to start her own business, and she's all excited about it. She has this big huge office, and she's ready. Well, business doesn't take off as she expected, so she has to downsize, and she ends up renting the office in her friend's little flower shop. So it's a small office, and she has all this large furniture cramped in there from the bigger office. But nonetheless, their businesses, they help each other. Both of them were struggling, and it's like flower shop, event planning. So, they kind of go hand in hand. So they help each other, with business. So she's there, and the way she ends up landing Gabe's arranged marriage. But before I tell you how she landed the position, let's tell you about this arranged marriage. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So, like I said, Gabe's dad pretty much controls him by the purse strings. His purse strings. And so Gabe ends up at another party, and he goes to all these social events and stuff because he makes connections, and then he connects people with other people, and he's really a good guy. Well, everybody he associates with is not good. So this party, this guy gets arrested. I don't think this time the police didn't come in there, but the guy got arrested, and then you get pictures of Gabe hanging out with him or at his party or whatever. So as far as thinks it's like deja vu or something, and he's mad at him, and he's like, you've tarnished our image again. And so he says, you're going to marry. So his father's working on this merger. And this guy has a daughter who actually went to prep school with Gabe, and they haven't seen or talked to each other in 10 years. But they want this merger, and this father wants his daughter to be attached to the bishop name. So they come up with this arranged marriage thing. And at first, Gabriel's like, no, I'm not doing that. And his father said, well, I'll cut you off. And here's the catch to that. You're probably thinking, well, just take some of his money and then live less, get a job, live a less extravagant life. It's not that easy because dad has never actually given him money. So he put him up in an apartment that he owns. So Gabe doesn't get a light bill or anything like that. He's never had to pay any bills. And as far as how he buys food and clothes and goes to all these restaurants, credit cards, which dad pays. So Gabriel has no access to cash. And as I kept reading the story, I'm like, his dad planned that from the beginning, And so Gabriel first tells his father, well, then, my brothers love me. They'll help me out. And he says, and I've already told them if they do, I'll cut them off as well. Now, think about it. Both brothers work for the dad. Archer lives on the 50th floor, one floor above Gabriel. So he would lose his place, and they're probably in the same situation. Which they probably earn a paycheck, but that cuts them off. That's going to hurt them too. So that leaves Gabe in a bind. He's like, oh crap. So now he's going to have to marry this woman, who, by the way, is nicknamed the Ice Queen. And I'm thinking, oh, she must be evil and she's mean and poor Gabe. And I feel kind of bad for him now. He's not really just some spoiled-rich kid. He actually goes to a hospital on Fridays, every Friday, and entertain sick kids, because here's the thing, his mom died of cancer and they were really close, and he talked his father into creating a wing at the hospital in her memory, and it's a pediatric cancer wing. And so one thing his mother told him is when she was going through her treatments, it helped her when people talked to her about other things that distracted her from what she was going through. So he came up with that idea, and so he goes down on Friday and does this with the children. He talks about everything except their treatment. So like I said, he really has a good heart. And he doesn't want things like that to change in his life. And so I'm thinking, he got to marry the Ice Queen, right? So here's what happened. Mackenzie used to work for this other lady named Diana, who's now like 8.5 months pregnant. So when Gabe's father and Serena's father, said, come up with this arranged marriage thing, Gabe's father was in charge of, getting the marriage, the wedding all situated, whatever. So Diana referred him to Mackenzie because she's going to drop in a minute with this baby, so she can't take it. But because of her reputation, Gabe's billionaire father hired Mackenzie, who's actually struggling in her business. Not because she doesn't do good business, but because she doesn't have any connections. Her name isn't out there. So in order for her to survive, she has to make good with this wedding. And they also make her sign an NDA, a non-disclosure agreement. So she can't reveal anything. Just so happens the night before the first wedding planning meeting, Gabe is out at a bar and he decides to go somewhere he doesn't usually frequent so he can have peace. And guess who he sees? Mackenzie. And at this time he doesn't know it's his wedding planner. So he goes, so spoiler alert, too late for that. But he tries to pick her up and she shoots him down, but not in a rude, disrespectful way. She just kind of calls him out on the way he tried to pick her up. Like by suggesting they go and have sex, which he was really trying to sow his oats. No excuse for his behavior, but she puts him in his place. Next day she finds out that's her billionaire client's son and he's the groom. So that doesn't look too good for Gabe, because the night before you're going to start planning your wedding, you tried to sleep with me. So she doesn't have a good opinion of him. And then she finds out that it's an arranged marriage and there's no love, and he hadn't even spoken to his fiance yet. Even at this wedding planning meeting, this is going to be the first time he's seen or spoken to her, probably other than tabloid pages, as far as seeing her, in 10 years. But so that kind of softens Mackenzie to her, and he explains why he can't get out, and he can trust her with this information because she signed an NDA, right? So we move on, and they're going to plan this wedding. Serena has no interest in it. So when she first shows up to the wedding plan, she's kind of excited about it, and then it deflates immediately. Turns out she thought she was marrying Archer, and she has a crush on Archer. So that just kind of adds to the pot, like, okay, it's bad enough she's in an arranged marriage, but she's being forced to marry the man, the brother of the man she's in love with. Which means she cannot, what are the chances of extinguishing that flame when she's probably going to see him all the time? And so now I'm feeling sorry for her, because you know how sometimes it is, and especially in romance books, you get, okay, these two people are going to end up being together, but in the beginning, one is attached to somebody else. Of course, they're not married, but you know, they're dating them or whatever. And when that person turns out not to be so great, you don't feel bad about the breakup. You're like, yeah, dump him or dump her and go get with this other person over here I like. That happens a lot. And then sometimes you have these amicable splits where nobody's bad, they're just not good for each other. So you can root for everybody. Well, with Serena, at first I kind of like, she is an ice queen because she doesn't talk much, she doesn't try to participate, and it's almost like she comes across as like she's better than everybody. And that's not the case. She's actually just having a tough time of it. She's shy, and then she's the leader. You know, she's in charge of all these organizations, and a lot of them she created. So she goes to these meetings, and she does all these things, and then at the last minute, she's told she has to plan a wedding. So her time, she doesn't have the time to do it. And plus, she's not interested in it because she doesn't love Gabriel. So I said all that to say, what happens? Gabe's dad said, I want the paparazzi taking all these pictures of you guys, showing that you're happy and Serena's the love of your life, because he's trying to untarnish their image from Gabe having been at that man's party. So, and Gabe says his father will send out spies and all this. So Gabe has to take an active part in planning this wedding. So if the paparazzi's out there, they'll see him, you know, taste testing cakes and picking out flowers and all this stuff. So Mackenzie's ready. Let's do this. And what happens? Serena hardly ever stays around, or she misses the meeting altogether. So that's leaving Gabriel having to plan this wedding pretty much by himself with Mackenzie. And they have to make sure they do it because the father asks for regular updates, like where they have to go in person in a meeting and give him updates and show him what they've accomplished so far with the wedding. So that's pretty much making them have to spend a lot of time together alone. So yeah, I'm gonna let you think about that for a minute. And so, but you have all of this going on, and let me tell you something. This relationship is amazing. Allie Winter's writing is amazing. I felt this love. I felt it. I was with them every step of the way. The way these characters were developed, the way their relationship was developed. I was just like, oh, when they heard, I heard. When they were happy, I was happy, and I got excited, and I was like anxious for stuff to happen, and I just felt every bit of it. I was in this moment, and that is no easy feat for an author. It is very hard to do, and Winters nailed it. Miss Allie Winters nailed it. And that is so important to me, especially in romance, for me to feel that love. And she made us feel it. And by the time they actually, make love to each other, and I'm going to warn all of you who have a problem with it, there are some detailed and illicit sex scenes in here. But this story is not about the sex. By the time that happens, you're ready for them to be together because you just love them. You love them both, and you love them together. And you're going to see sides of, Gabe that's just going to make you swoon over him. And it's not, yeah, he's handsome and he's rich, but it's more to him than that. And you're just going to love him, how playful he is. And then at the same time, he can get serious when he needs to. And he genuinely cares about other people, just like, Mackenzie. And so, we all have our flaws or whatever. So I don't want to make you think, it's not believable. We can't connect to them because they're too perfect. No, it's nothing like that. They have places where they can grow, but it's nothing that overshadows their goodness. And like I said, you will be right in the middle of their love and feel what they feel. And anything that can engage all my emotions like that, because let me tell you, I was like just turning that Kindle, and I was like, oh, and I was going through all of this stuff. And I'm telling you, if my kids didn't know I was reading a book, somebody probably would have tried to have me committed. I don't want to give them any ideas. But I love this book, and I was so glad to get it. And when it came to the end, I couldn't figure out how it was going to end. That's another thing that really gets to me about a book. Because even sometimes when I know how it's going to end and it ends that way, as long as the delivery was on point, I'm good with that. I don't get disappointed like, oh, I knew that was going to happen. Every book doesn't have to have a surprise ending for me. It's about the journey getting there. And as any of those who know me or know of me know, I love a good romance book. So a majority of what I read is romance. Don't get me wrong, your book doesn't have to be romance for me to review it. But that is, I review a lot of romance, for Publishers Weekly, I review romance, and then I edit romance for HarperCollins, the Harlequin division of HarperCollins, and then I edit for Hallmark, which is romance. So I do have a lot of romance in my life, and I look for stories like this that just from the beginning to the end, I didn't want to put this book down, and I think that was absolutely great, and I give kudos to Miss Allie Winters. And I will say this, I Googled it, so I know. The next book in this series is actually Archer and Serena's story. And this book set us up for that. It is so amazing. And I'm not going to tell you how because I don't want to spoil it for you. And yes, you already know she has a crush on Archer, but you don't know how they get together. And if you want to find out, you got to read it. Just like the rest of us. No shortcuts, no spoilers. So I will say this too. I am waiting for next year to come. I'm waiting for this book to come out. And I would love it if Allie reaches back out to me. Yeah, because this book was so good. She's now my friend and we're on first name basis. I would love it if she reaches out to me and asks me to review this next book. Not because I'm cheap. I will buy the book. I have no problem with that. But if she offers it to me, I will get an ARC. For those of you who don't know what that is an advanced reader's copy, which means I will get it early. See where I'm going with that? That hint, everybody, I would get it early. Allie, if you're watching this, I would get it early. I don't mind getting it early. Please give it to me early. And I will review it. Hands down, no problem. But if you decide against that, then I will just wait like everybody else and buy my copy. Either or, I'm fine with it. But I would prefer to have it early. Just thought I'd throw that out there in case you missed it the first 15 times I said it. So, with that being said and all my pleading done, it is time for the rating. Okay, for those of you who don't know, I don't use stars, I use cups of coffee, and it's actually the less the better. So, the gist is, how many cups of coffee did I have to drink to get through the book? So, 0 cups of coffee is equivalent to 5 stars, 1 cup of coffee is equivalent to 4 stars, and so on and so forth. How many cups of coffee, pop quiz, how many cups of coffee do you think I drank to get through Resisting the Billionaire? Do I even have to tell you? No, but I will. Drum roll, please. And I don't have any drums, so I'm going to need you to pretend you heard that. Here we go. How many? That is right. Boom! 0 cups of coffee. I didn't need any. As a matter of fact, I didn't even make any coffee. From the first page, I said, oh, I'm getting through this. That is how great this book is, and I highly, highly suggest you grab you a copy and read it, and then come on back over here and tell us what you thought about it. Because I could talk about Gabriel and Mackenzie and what's coming up with Archer and Serena, and I don't know who Connor's going to end up with, but I'm going to be watching out for it, and I could talk about it all day. So grab your copy and drop me a line. I'll be right here waiting. With that being said, that is it for today's review. Thank you guys for joining me. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, happy reading.